They're hard to miss, packed with ISIS fighters and heavy weapons.
If I asked you to name the most successful military vehicle of the last 50 years, you'd probably think of a tank. Maybe a Humvee. Perhaps an armored personnel carrier. But what if I told you the answer wasn't a military vehicle at all? What if it was a pickup truck? A pickup truck built by a company that never intended to have anything to do with warfare. Yet somehow this vehicle has appeared in conflict after conflict. From Africa to the Middle East, the same truck keeps showing up. Whenever a war breaks out, there's a good chance you'll find one nearby. A truck so reliable that it became the preferred vehicle for rebel groups, militias, insurgents, and terrorist organizations. In fact, one war was literally named after it. And when ISIS exploded onto the world stage in 2014, thousands of Toyota vehicles suddenly appeared in its propaganda videos, creating a mystery that would follow the company for years. How did a truck designed for farmers become a symbol of modern warfare? And why does it keep appearing on battlefields around the world?
The story begins in Japan in 1968. At the time, Toyota wasn't trying to build a military vehicle. The company simply wanted to create a dependable pickup truck for workers, farmers, and businesses. Toyota engineers focused on something much simpler: reliability. While many manufacturers chased horsepower and innovation, Toyota obsessed over durability. A truck that could handle terrible roads and harsh weather without falling apart. The Hilux developed a reputation unlike almost any other vehicle in the world. Stories spread about trucks surviving hundreds of thousands of kilometers. In remote villages, mining sites, and construction projects, the Hilux earned a reputation as a machine that refused to die. Wars are expensive. Tanks cost millions of dollars. Armored vehicles require specialized maintenance, and modern military equipment depends on massive logistical networks to keep operating. For well-funded armies, that's manageable. For insurgent groups, militias, and rebel forces, it's almost impossible. Most of these groups don't have access to military factories, trained mechanics, or endless supplies of spare parts. What they need is something simple, cheap, reliable, and easy to repair. And that's exactly where the Toyota Hilux entered the picture. In many conflict zones across Africa and the Middle East, roads are little more than dirt tracks, repair facilities are scarce, and infrastructure is often non-existent. The Hilux was built for harsh conditions. It could withstand extreme heat, rough terrain, and long journeys with minimal maintenance. Even when something went wrong, repairs could often be carried out using basic tools and widely available parts. For armed groups operating in remote regions, this was a major advantage. The truck could travel across deserts, mountains, and rugged terrain where heavier vehicles struggled. It consumed less fuel, required fewer resources. But then someone realized the Hilux could do more than transport people and supplies. The cargo bed could be transformed into a weapons platform. Machine guns were mounted in the back. Rocket launchers were attached to the frame. Mortars and anti-aircraft weapons were installed with minimal modifications. These converted pickups became known as technicals, and they quickly proved their value on the battlefield. Toyota pickups were now appearing in conflicts across the world. From Somalia and Sudan to Afghanistan and the Middle East, the Hilux was becoming the unofficial vehicle of irregular warfare. In 1987, Chad went to war against Libya, a country with a much stronger military equipped with tanks, aircraft, and heavy artillery. Despite being heavily outmatched on paper, Chadian forces used Toyota Hilux and Land Cruiser pickups fitted with anti-tank weapons to launch fast, mobile attacks across the Sahara Desert. Their speed and flexibility allowed them to outmaneuver Libya's slower, heavily armored forces, striking targets and retreating before a response could be organized. The strategy proved so effective that Chad achieved a surprising victory, and the conflict became known as the Toyota War. The war demonstrated that in certain environments, mobility and adaptability can be more valuable than heavy armor. helping establish the Toyota Hilux as one of the most influential vehicles in modern, unconventional warfare. After the Toyota War, the reputation of the Toyota Hilux spread far beyond the deserts of Chad. The conflict had proven that a simple pickup truck could play a major role on the battlefield, and armed groups around the world took notice. At the same time, the Hilux was becoming one of the most popular utility vehicles on the planet. Farmers used it to transport crops. Construction companies relied on it for demanding jobs. Humanitarian organizations used it to reach remote communities, and businesses depended on it for daily operations. Its reputation for reliability, durability, and simplicity made it especially popular in developing regions where roads were poor and repair facilities were limited. By the 1990s and early 2000s, millions of Hiluxes were operating across Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Latin America. But the same qualities that made the truck valuable to ordinary people also made it attractive to armed groups. As a result, Toyota pickups became an increasingly common sight in conflict zones. From civil wars in Africa to insurgencies in the Middle East, images of armed fighters riding in Hiluxes began appearing with growing frequency. Toyota wasn't supplying these groups, nor did it intend for its vehicles to be used in warfare. The reality was much simpler. The Hilux had become one of the most widespread and trusted vehicles in the world, and wherever conflict existed, some of those vehicles inevitably ended up on the battlefield. By the early 2000s, the Toyota Hilux had evolved from a dependable work truck into an unexpected icon of modern irregular warfare, appearing in conflicts across multiple continents and earning a reputation that stretched far beyond its original purpose. For years, the Toyota Hilux had been a familiar sight in conflicts around the world, but it wasn't until the rise of the terrorist group ISIS in 2014 that the truck became the center of a global controversy. As ISIS rapidly expanded across Iraq and Syria, the group released a steady stream of propaganda videos showcasing its military strength. Viewers around the world noticed something unusual. Alongside the armed fighters and black flags were long convoys of Toyota Hiluxes and Land Cruisers. The vehicles appeared everywhere, carrying troops, mounted weapons, and supplies. Images of these convoys quickly spread across news networks, newspapers, and social media, leading many people to ask the same question: how did a terrorist organization acquire so many Toyota vehicles? Some even speculated that Toyota had somehow supplied the trucks directly, but there was never any evidence to support those claims. Toyota publicly condemned terrorism and stated that it did not knowingly sell vehicles to terrorist organizations. Investigations suggested a far more complicated explanation. Many of the vehicles had originally been purchased legally by civilians, businesses, aid organizations, or governments before being resold, stolen, captured, or smuggled into conflict zones. Others were seized from military forces as ISIS overran bases and stockpiles across Iraq and Syria. By the time these vehicles appeared in ISIS propaganda videos, they had often passed through multiple owners and countries, making their origins extremely difficult to trace. Nevertheless, the images had a lasting impact on public perception. For millions of people watching around the world, Toyota vehicles had become visually linked to one of the most notorious terrorist organizations in modern history. By this point, the obvious question is, if Toyota knows its vehicles are ending up in conflict zones, why doesn't the company simply stop it? The answer is far more complicated than it might seem. Toyota sells millions of vehicles around the world every year through authorized dealerships and distributors, and once a vehicle is legally purchased, the company has very little control over what happens next. A Hilux might be sold to a farmer, a construction company, a government agency, or an aid organization, only to be resold years later to another owner. From there, it could be exported to another country, sold again through a used vehicle market, stolen, captured during a conflict, or smuggled across borders. By the time it eventually appears in a war zone, it may have passed through multiple owners and several countries, making its journey almost impossible to track. This challenge becomes even greater in regions affected by conflict, where governments collapse, records disappear, borders become difficult to monitor, and black markets thrive. In many cases, armed groups don't buy vehicles directly from manufacturers at all. They acquire them through theft, battlefield captures, smuggling networks, or secondhand markets. Many products, from communication equipment to commercial drones and ordinary consumer vehicles, have ended up being used in conflicts despite being created for civilian purposes. The difference is that the Toyota Hilux became so widespread, so reliable, and so visually recognizable that it became closely associated with modern warfare. As a result, Toyota found itself facing a reputation problem created not by its intentions, but by the extraordinary success of the very product it had spent decades perfecting. The story of the Toyota Hilux isn't really a story about terrorism. It's a story about unintended consequences. When Toyota introduced the Hilux in 1968, the company's goal was simple: build a reliable pickup truck that could withstand harsh conditions and serve hardworking people. And by almost every measure, Toyota succeeded. The Hilux earned a reputation as one of the toughest and most dependable vehicles ever made, trusted by farmers, construction workers, aid organizations, businesses, and families across the globe. But the very qualities that made it valuable in everyday life, durability, reliability, simplicity, and adaptability, also made it attractive to armed groups operating in some of the world's most unstable regions. The truck didn't become a symbol of modern conflict because Toyota designed it for war. It became a symbol of modern conflict because it was everywhere, it was easy to maintain, and it could survive conditions that would destroy many other vehicles. Today, millions of Hiluxes continue to serve ordinary people, transporting food, delivering humanitarian aid, supporting businesses, and connecting remote communities. Most will never see a battlefield. Yet despite its civilian origins, the Hilux has earned an unlikely place in military history. From the deserts of Chad to the streets of Syria and Iraq, the truck has repeatedly proven its ability to adapt to circumstances its creators never imagined.